on reflection. So reflection is like when a light wave, or it can be a sound wave, but we're just talking about light waves in this video, bounces off a surface, and then the effect is like reflection. So that's what reflection is. So there's an important rule that we must remember. The angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. So I'm going to show you a diagram and on the next slide. So if you don't understand it now, just wait and you'll see. This is called the law of reflection. So for example, if a light wave hit a mirror at an angle of 45 degrees, it would be reflected at the same angle, 45 degrees again. Yep, so make sure you remember this equation. Angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. Okay, so this is a diagram. This thing is how you draw a mirror. This dotted line is called the normal. It's an imaginary line at 90 degrees to the surface. Let's say this is our light ray, and it hits there. Remember, light travels in straight lines, so it's going to be light. You have to show the direction it's going in, and then it hits here, and then it's reflected back this way. You have to draw the arrow. Now, what we're talking about when we say the angle of incidence is the angle of reflection. Well, this is the incident ray, and this ray here is the reflected ray. So the angle of incidence is the angle between the incident ray and the normal, and the angle of reflection is the angle between the normal and the reflected ray. So these angles are always the same. So if an incident ray hit a mirror and the angle between that and the normal was 40 degrees, then the reflected ray, the distance between the reflected ray and the normal, the angle of reflection, would also be 40 degrees. So they're always the same. So you need to know what an angle of reflection is, an angle of incidence is, a normal, and we'll look in those key definitions and give you a test after. To recap, the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection, I equals R. If the angle of incidence was 30 degrees, the angle of reflection would also be 30 degrees. Now we're going to give a quick test. So pause the video now and try and answer the questions. Okay, so the incident ray is the ray that hits the surface. The reflected ray is the ray that is reflected off the surface. What is the angle of incidence? The angle between the incident ray and the normal. What is the angle of reflection? The angle of reflection is the angle between the normal and the reflected ray. What is the normal? That is the imaginary 90 degrees line